Hello ladies and gentlemen, Deja Vu here bringing you some more MSL action from the ABC Mart MSL. This is going to be match B of the round of 16. This is going to be Mind versus Light in a best of 3 TVT. Of course, only one game being played today, and then the other two will be played later and will be casted later as well by yours truly. Well, here we go. It is going to be a TVT, and the first map is Mancha. We are going to have Mind in teal at the bottom left. They may actually change these colors because teal and green are kind of similar. But for now, we do have... Okay, there we go. Mind at the bottom left in yellow. From We Made Fox has been playing really well actually recently, and has dominated quite well in Winners League, and in even the new season of Pro League has been playing very well recently. So he is definitely in form. An informed Mind versus a Light for Woongjin Stars in red at the bottom right. He's a recent transfer from MBC coming over. And I gotta say, he has not been the Light that we knew. I mean, even when he was still on NBC for most of the season, he has not really been the Light that we came to love, with his amazing TVT, with his very high quality play overall. And Light was a really good player, and then he's kind of petered off a little bit, leveled off. He's not quite as good as he was before. Maybe it could just be circumstances, getting used to his new team, or something with the new season. Something's going on, and hopefully he'll be able to get back on track and start pushing his win rate up again. But he does have a history of being being a very good player, and I think we should be in for a good TVT if he is up to form, because I know Mind is up to form. Mind has been playing very well recently, so as long as Light can counter with his own form, I think we'll be in for a very exciting TVT. Not to say that the first 10 minutes will be exciting, because chances are it won't be, because it's a TVT between good players, but the later game should be pretty fun. Usually the early game between two players who are both in form, both playing well and respect each other, tends to not be very fun at the beginning, because they're just macro up to like 3 or 4 bases off of like 1 or 2 factories, and then finally they'll start macroing up and finally dropping each other and doing fun things. But the beginning of the game is just a matter of setup to see if anyone can get away with earlier CCs or anything like that. Like this exactly, like Light getting away with his CC going down earlier than Mind, and will Mind make him pay for it? That's the question here. And usually that just doesn't happen when your Rax is in base. That's why a lot of times you'll actually see Terran players put their Raxes, their first scouting SCV will just kind of push out a little bit, put the Rax right in the middle of the map somewhere, as far as they can get once they get their 150 minerals, and then just send out a couple Marines just to see if their opponent goes for that super early command center. Maybe they can take advantage. But it looks like it's not going to be too big of a deal here. We do see that Mind has thrown down his command center as well, so it's not going to be too significant. 1 rack CC versus 14 CC. Obviously, it is an advantage for Light, but should not throw him out of the game by any certain stretch of the imagination here. Not right away, anyways. Is going to be a little, is definitely going to be a slight victory though for Light for sure. As we go on later into this early game and into the early mid game. And Mind actually looking to try and get a kill with that SCV. Actually came very close and backed off there. That SCV has only 10 life left, and actually using the refinery, so just going to jump in and out of the refinery, so it's going to make it very difficult for Mind to get a kill. And so that's that. And Mind is actually going to usher away the SCV of Light. Light actually getting the scout on there, seeing the CC, knowing that it's a 1 rack CC. He can just click on it, see the health on it, and he knows full well that it's a 1 rack CC. Doesn't even need to get into the base, so he doesn't bother trying to force the issue there. Whereas Mind has gotten his SCV into the base, and it dies there to the first Marine. But, yeah, no real scouting information to be had. I mean, if either player had an SCV in their opponent's base, there would be no interesting information to say, and nothing out of the ordinary. I think we are going to have one of those games where we just kind of sit around for the first little bit and just see if anyone makes any mistakes, see if anyone's able to steal and cut some corners a little bit better than the other. And that's that seems to me like how this game is going to play out, at least for the first few bases, as we do have factories going down and such things. But how's this game going to develop on La Mancha? There are a lot of bases on this map, and every single map is a gas expansion. On some maps, when you start getting those mineral onlys and things, it can get a little bit interesting in TVT to see the base choices, and in particular how players deal with the fact that they are going to have a lot more minerals than the corresponding gas that they would want. It gets a little interesting. But on this map, with all of the gas at all of the expansions, I think we're going to see a lot more just straight up tank and dropship play. You're going to see easy Goliaths to mix in as well. And things like that. We do have the first deviation here. We have Light throwing down 3 factories, and for mine it looks like we're going to have a starport mixed in with his single factory here, it looks like. Yeah, and he's getting Academy as well, so we'll have scans, barracks passing each other, high-fiving along the way. Another SCV for Mind actually is going to get into the base of Light. This is actually the first big scouting information going on. He sees the 3 factories, going to see the no starport, going to see the no Academy yet either, so this is all information for Mind that is very, very important. He's going to know the lack of scan. He's going to note the lack of an armory even, and the influx of factories. So he knows he's going to have to be a little bit defensive here. He knows he's going to have to be careful with the units coming his way. But he does have that starport, and we could see that end up turning into a late cloaked wraith, knowing that there aren't any, knowing that there isn't an armory or an academy right now that could actually end up being a viable defense for Mind. Since he is lacking in the factories, he needs something to try and even that out. And we do have that control tower researching, so this is going to be absolutely 4 cloaked wraiths. There's the armory, there's the academy, and so Light, almost kind of guessing what might be the proper counter to this, is going to get up his a couple Goliaths, and we'll have scan ready as well. Once he has the energy and the comsats built, he will be set to go as well. We still, it looks like we have a second factory down for Mind. It looks like there on the mini-map, I think I see a second factory blob. So he isn't going, but he still is going to be pretty far behind in terms of overall ground forces. So he's going to have to use these wraiths pretty effectively in terms of scouting, in terms of giving range sight to his tanks. Those kinds of things are going to be very, very important. Third factory as well for Mind being thrown up, and the first wraith is revealed, and it's going to start peppering at this barracks, going to force it away, going to stop that from getting any sort of scouting information. That is pretty important actually once we get into the stage of the game where you kind of have the tanks lining up looking at each other, and you see both players start scanning on top of each other, trying to get barracks or engineering bays or whatever you can float over to each other's tank lines in order to scout it out and give your own tank some vision. And having those wraiths around, having Goliaths around, which I believe is what Light's going to do, stops your opponent from having those lifted buildings doing too much, giving away too much vision. We do have some vultures out for Light right now. He's throwing down some mines at a couple different locations, and that barracks is actually going to go down now with the tanks reinforcing. And now that the mines have been revealed, we should see Mind maybe be a little bit cautious here. Yeah, he is. He's got 3 tanks pushing out. He's got to be really cautious when those 2 mines right there are together. Sometimes both of them might, if you're not careful and you move just a little bit too far, you might actually get both of them to pop up at the same time, which would be devastating because one of them will go off if both of them pop off at the same time. So he's going to be a little bit careful as he pushes out with these tanks. And it looks like he's actually stopped the push out and recognizing the danger, and has decided to throw down a command center inside of his own base, lift that off, and take that to the 9 o'clock position once that is complete. And we only have 1 singular wraith here from Mind, interestingly enough. It does have cloak, or at least it should have cloak, but he's not really concerned about really making a lot of them, knowing, I believe that he either saw or suspects the Goliath count and things like that, so he doesn't really want to even bother with the with excessive numbers of wraiths. 3 machine shops for Mind compared to only 2 for Light, so he's going to get all of his upgrades, and he's also going to have a ton of tanks. He's going to be able to really pump tanks. He does have 2 gas, so he should be able to do tanks off of all those, especially considering he's not building anything out of the starport right now. No dropships or wraiths as of yet. Light having pushed across the map a little bit here, establishing a position on one of the ridges here on La Mancha. And here comes Mind with more tanks than Light, and a nice volley there, taking down 2 tanks and almost taking down a third. There goes the 3rd tank, but here comes some vultures coming in for Light, and if they've got Mind, all of these could be in danger. All of these tanks could go down to mines, and here they come. Here comes some mines being placed all over the place. Mind losing 1 tank, 2 tanks. Are they all going to go down? More tanks going down here. Nice mines being placed down by Light, and more tanks going down. So 4 tanks left for Mind here. 2 of them came in reinforcing, and 2 of them are in the deep red. So Mind does hold here, does manage to take down the forces of Light in this engagement, but he definitely lost a lot doing it, and probably lost a lot more in terms of minerals and gas compared to Light. But he does get the position, does manage to secure that spot, so that way he can take his 3rd base. He is going to have to clear out those mines though before he'll be able to really take it. We have a couple more factories being thrown down for Mind as well. Some idle SCVs. A little bit sloppy there for Mind. But he should be fine on that account. And actually, he might not have to kill that mine. Will he? Yeah, okay, no, never mind. He will have to come back and destroy it. Some vultures coming in here from light to the 9 o'clock position, looking to try and stop this base from going up even farther. And no, actually, he can place it down. Interesting. Interesting, he could place it, but he chose not to there for a moment for some reason. And Light has taken the corresponding base at the 3 o'clock position. He has taken the same thing, so we are on even base count still. We have moved on to the 3 base game here. Finally, a starport coming up for Light, much later than mine, but that starport really didn't come too strongly into play. It did manage to usher away that barracks and really take it down, and it did have a little bit of sight giving at that during the first battle, but hasn't been too significant. We have a couple rates out now for Mind. He has started to pump a little bit more out of that starport, and we'll see if that ends up being a growing number. I'm also curious to see if Light is able to get to +2 weapons much earlier than Mind. We did see that he had the armory down already, and I don't even know if Mind has an armory. I would assume he does. He probably doesn't want to fall too far behind on upgrades, but I haven't seen it yet, and that could end up being a problem for him. And some vultures for Mind actually sneaking in here to the 3 o'clock base, getting get 3 and maybe a 4th, Yeah, no, yep, you're gonna get 4 SCVs there for those 3 vultures. So some good work going on there for those harassment. And yes, we do have an armory for Mind researching +1 as well. And Light's +1 has not yet finished, but he has established this pseudo-partial contain going on one of the ridges in the middle of the map, and that will at least keep Mind back a little bit. But Mind using vultures on some of the other parts of the map is going to be able to place down a lot of mines, and is actually going to take down one of the siege tank and get down the second siege tank as well with some nice mine placement. So some good work there again by Mind with his vultures. Very nice play there with those vultures. And that's going to be very important. We do have missile turrets as well starting to come up for both players at some different locations just to stop any sort of drops, just to be annoying. And another mine going off on one of Light's tanks, not killing it, but certainly putting it in the deep red. So that's something to watch out for. That tank could go down very, very easily if it's not repaired. A vulture at the top left for Light is going to stop a sneaky base from Mind from going up. So nice position there, and he's definitely going to be happy with that little investment of location and time and effort. Looks like Mind's pushing up a little bit, has actually started to move his forces towards the northern block position, and Light has taken the ridge there as well. So Light has actually taken both ridges as of now, which is pretty important. He's got the high ground on both spots. So unless Mind can drop some units or catch Light by surprise with an influx of units, both of those spots are going to be pretty superior to Mind's in terms of overall force needed to defend compared to the attacking force. That's going to be a benefit to Light. And Mind is, I think he's still looking to take another base. It looks like he really wants to take a 4th base, and really he should. Definitely a good idea in TVT to take as many bases as you possibly can. This has actually been a more aggressive TVT than sometimes we see against some of the better players, where if you ever watch Fantasy versus Flash, there's almost a tendency to be like, let's not fight until 6 bases and things like that. We do have a couple Valkyries actually out for Light, and a Wraith has also been brought in as well. And so this is a pretty heavy investment by Light. He's gonna have to use those very effectively to take down. I mean, it's really not that big a group of Wraiths. Looks like about 5 or so, might be growing to 6 or 7 pretty soon for Mind. So if he can take down those Wraiths and establish air control, that could actually end up helping him significantly as we transition into probable dropship play. And Mind moving across with some more vultures to the bottom towards the 6 o'clock. Going to place some more mines here. Going to take down both of these tanks probably pretty easily. Yeah, both tanks are going down with very, very much ease. And actually there's a command center down here as well that Mind's going to try and take care of. And he's going to try and stop this, but he is not going to have much luck at all. Huge influx of troops from Light is going to push this back and force Mind back across the bridge. And Light is going to be able to secure that 6 o'clock position and take that. That would be his 4th base, so he'll be in pretty good shape here, and actually has a little bit of an advantage in terms of the eco. We do have Mind is taking the top left base as well, and a Goliath going down in the middle of the map to these Wraiths while Light was not able to pay attention. So now these Wraiths are going to start picking away at the tank count. But here comes some Valkyries, and I don't think that he has any idea that these is coming. Mind does no idea, and here they come, and he actually managed to pull away. Look at that! Look at that timing. He actually was probably pulling away from the Goliath, and it just so happened that timed perfectly with when he needed needed to run away from the Valkyries, so keeps all of his units alive, and he knows that the Valkyries are there, so that is huge for him. A 5th base coming up here for Light, and Mind might actually be taking the 12 o'clock position, which would be his 5th, and if he takes the top left natural, that would be 6, which would not be surprising, honestly, to see him take all 3 of those bases at the same time, considering the lack of dropship play so far by either player. Looks like both players willing to macro up. And here comes Mind coming on attack at on the northern flank, coming in here, and he's going to try and take down this ridge, and he should have some success as long as he can get more units in there. He has enough there if he can keep them pushing, and Mind's going off, and he does take down most of the tanks, but there is still some more reinforcement coming in. That attack was not quite fast enough in order to take that ridge. Light also bringing in his Air Force into play to stop any sort of cloaked Wraith action that could possibly take down the remaining forces there. Mind continuing to bring in his own Valkyries, so he's brought in 2 of his own Valkyries combined with his Wraiths. So both players are committing quite heavily, gas-wise particularly, to their Air Forces here with 2 Valkyries each. It's 450 gas. That's a lot of gas being brought into play. Starport still working for Mind, and that armory is spinning for +2 weapons, and we should see Light spinning with those +2 weapons as well. We do see that science facility for Light, and he's at +1. Yep, should just be macroing up to +2, and revealing the Valkyries here and the Wraiths is Mind going for that science facility and actually backing off there. Might have gotten pretty close to killing it, but didn't really need it. Once that +2 is started, it's not like it stops just because the science. At least I don't think it does. Yeah, it doesn't stop just because the science facility goes down. And scans going down by both players looking to take down each other's tank lines here. Neither of them is going to have a whole lot of success though. Mind sending up some more vultures here, some great vulture play by both these guys, and sending out some more vultures here to try and clear out this top right. Does manage to take down a couple of tanks and sneaks in some vultures as well, so he's going to be able to do some more economic harassment here. And the Air Force, the cloaked Wraiths coming into play for Light to try and defend here, but four vultures coming in here to the top right main, and they're going to pick off a ton of SCVs here. It looks like they've picked off 4 or 5 SCVs, maybe 6, 7. Yeah, a bunch of SCVs going down there. Some good economic harassment once again going down there for Mind, and actually looks like he's maybe trying to sweep in some more vultures. That could be very, very effective if he's able to pull it off. Light trying to counter with his own mines, but not nearly as successful. Only taking down well, looks like he took down 2 tanks with some of his own tanks that were in support, but not nearly as successful, particularly with the economic harassment as Minds have been. Both players have actually done some good vulture work throughout this game. I just think Minds have been slightly better overall and has been able to do a little bit more damage. Mind throwing up another starport as well, so that will be his 2nd, and I believe Light is already on 3, but 2 of them do not have control towers, so they won't be able to do the quick switch to dropship. Those can only be for Wraiths right now. 3 Valkyries right now for Mind, so he's really investing heavily into this air fight that hasn't even really happened yet, but for when it does, he will be ready, I guess. And Mind having that siege tank repaired, actually letting that get a couple extra shots, and considering it is +2 weapons upgraded faster than Light, which is shocking to me that he actually beat Light on the +2 weapons upgrade. Very, very shocking that Light allowed that to happen. He's actually going to be able to start taking out tanks in 2 shots. And a couple of vultures for Light sneaking into the 12 o'clock base, and they're going to start picking out some SCVs. So there we go. There's some counter economic damage being done, and that's exactly what Light needs to do. He's taken some hits himself, lost some SCVs, so he needs to counter and do the exact same thing, and that's and he's done exactly that, so he's in good shape there. Some good counter harassment, and with those 3 bases at the top left, 3 bases at the bottom left, Mind is on 6 base, and for Light we've got 3 bases in the bottom right and 2 bases in the top right, so we got 5 bases. I think he does have the top right natural, but it's only been recently mining. It's much newer, and so it's pretty much a split map here. And Mind starting to push across and not going on those normal ridges that we normally see. He's actually pushing across the bridge at the top, at the 12 o'clock position, pushing across that bridge, which is actually a pretty dangerous spot, because when you're pushing across it, if your opponent realizes that that's where you're going, you can get really bottlenecked in there pretty terribly. But that did not occur, and Mind was able to cross it pretty easily. 4 or 5 Valkyries for Mind. So many Valkyries being mixed in. At the same time, Light is producing so many starports. That's 5 starports now for Light. And he's getting control towers on a lot of them. So could we be seeing control towers on all of them? Excuse me, do we have a physics lab? Are we going to see a quick switch to battlecruiser? I mean, it's possible with 6 gas. Absolutely possible. But that is 6 starports with control towers. That is ridiculous. ridiculous. I mean, I guess he could do one wave of dropships and he'd be good for life, but we do have a science facility building at the top right, so I expect that to get a physics lab on it as soon as it's done. There, it is completed, and come on, Light. Come on, Light. All these starports are blinking, so they're building something. They must just be building a dropship or something like that. There is the physics lab, so we are going to see the quick battle cruiser tech, and that is going to be very, very fun. We do have a bunch of starports up for Mind as well, and he's got his own physics lab, so we're gonna have battle cruisers from both players. Alright guys, we are skipping the dropship phase of the game. Unless Light or Mind has produced a round of dropships out of their starports before switching to battle cruisers, we're going to completely skip that phase of the game. That phase of the game that usually happens every single time and is very, very important. It's coming completely skipped here. We are going straight into battle cruisers. We actually have some rates being produced, so that was a round of rates, not dropships being built by Light. He's gonna go pick off this barracks to stop factories, but I don't think Light cares, or Mind cares that he can't produce factories. And both players with such a huge air force, so many Valkyries, so many rates. This is going to be very, very exciting once the engagement actually happens. Who can get the best volley from their Valkyries? Who can actually get them on the biggest clump and things like that? We do have 1-1 weapons and armor for both players on their aerial forces. And both players know where each other's air forces are, I believe. I don't think it's too much of a secret right now that they're both in the top half of the map. It's just a matter of where exactly they are. And Mind almost unleashing his air force, but not quite ready to yet. He does know where it is. He could go for an attack here, but both players have to be somewhat concerned because both players do have Goliaths, and if you fight the other person's air force over top of their Goliath, you could actually end up really hurting your own cause. And here come the forces. The rates have been brought into by Light and backing off immediately as Mind was coming in with his Valkyrie and his air force. Not as many Goliaths actually for Mind as there are for Light, so a little bit more concerning for Mind to try and engage Light's air force on his side of the map. And Mind actually retreating his air force as well back to the south. Maybe going to try and do some damage down here with his race. Going to try and take down this tank line. Going to come right in here and take down the Goliaths. The Goliaths are +2 weapons upgraded, and a couple of rates are going to go down. It looks like 2 or 3 rates did go down there, but he does manage to take them down. He's going to start picking off tanks here, and actually could pick off several tanks before the rates actually are able to come back in reinforcement for Light, and does manage to do so. But Light is forced to react. So both players being very much of a push-pull here, action-reaction from both of them, and continuing to produce rates right now is Light. Haven't quite seen the battle cruisers yet. I believe that Mind is producing battle cruisers. We haven't seen a lot of rates recently being produced, so I believe that those are battle cruisers. And it looks like Mind throwing away some SCVs. He's got a few too many, so he's just going to toss them away to at Light's units. And free up some psi here. We have Light throwing away a few more at the top half of the map, and a lot of turrets going up for Light, and Mind very likely will be throwing up a lot of turrets as well. Yeah, we do see that. We do see him throwing up a lot of turrets as well, knowing that both players have air forces, and that is going to be how the game is going to be decided through the air force. Both players are going to be throwing up turrets. We have 2-1 for the Wraiths and Valkyries of Light, still on 1-1 for Mind as of now. I expect both players to get their upgrades going very, very strongly. Very, very quickly. Engineering Bay actually getting picked off there for Mind, so Light in a little bit of an advantage there. Mind's not going to be able to produce any turrets here for a little while, until he's able to rebuild up hidden engineering bay, and that is 3, 6, 7 Valkyries for Mind, so a ton of Valkyries. So they'll be so effective against Wraiths, but once battle cruisers come into play for Light, they won't be able to do too much there. And first battle cruisers are out for Light, or I'm sorry, for Mind. Man, I keep getting them confused. For Mind, first battle cruisers are out, and that's going to be very, very important as to how well he's able to keep those away from the Wraiths. He wants to get those into the fight, but he wants his Valkyries and his Wraiths to really get in there as well, and not get ambushed at all. The battle cruisers are slower, so he's got to be careful that they don't somehow get disconnected from the rest of his army, the rest of his air force, and get picked off. by cloaked wraiths. That's something to watch out for. And Mind with his Air Force at the top. It looks like he might actually be able to get a volley with his Valkyries. He's going for it. Will he get a volley? No, that was so close. Very, very, very close for Light. That could have been devastating. Very, very, very close. Just a couple pixels away from getting from eating a couple volleys from those Valkyries. Very, very close. Light playing with fire there, but he doesn't get burned at all, and manages to back off without too many problems. Does look like Light is trying to push down the northern ramp, trying to get off of that ridge and try and put a little bit of pressure on. Neither player's really managed to do too much. Neither player's really has killed a base yet, so that is something as well. Turret's sitting here picking up the science facility of Light. Doesn't even matter. There's another one at the top right with the physics lab, so it doesn't really matter. But there are a bunch of battlecruisers for Mind right now, and combined mixed force, if Mind can use them properly, will obviously benefit Mind. And for the most part in StarCraft, if you have huge forces and yours is more mixed as opposed to the other person's, usually you'll come out ahead if you're able to properly micro everything and get your engagement in a decent fashion where they don't get a huge advantage. Usually you'll end up ahead, just because with the mixed forces, with the tankiness of the battlecruisers, with the big damage as well, and all of the cloaked wraiths and the power of the Valkyries, with all of just the mixture of units that Mind has. You just got to look at his army and think that it's a little bit stronger overall. He does have 2-2 upgrades on his air, and Light is on 2-2 as well. And it does look like Light has a little bit more of a ground force here, and he's actually going to try and use that here at the 12 o'clock position. Going to try and take down this base with his ground force, with his tanks, and at least he'll be able to take down these turrets, especially early on. So that way, Mind doesn't have an advantage if there is an aerial battle up in that position. And SCV's coming off the line to be harassive and annoying, but Light's Wraiths are in position to stop them from doing too much. Mind bringing in a couple tanks here to try and defend, and his battlecruisers coming into play as well. That is 6 battlecruisers. That is a very, very powerful force, and it is only growing in number. And the Wraiths for Light are at 3 weapons, 2 armor, and the air for Mind, I believe, are still at 2-2 for now. A science vessel has been brought into play for Mind as well, and big EMP on all those Wraiths. There goes all your cloaking. We're getting the first-person view from Mind right now. We got, what is that, 11,000 minerals and like 6,000 gas, something like that. 7,000 gas and about 194 size. So he's maxed out, just trying to build whatever he properly thinks he wants. And 8 battlecruisers are in play. Here's the first-person view from Light. He's got about 11,000 and 7,000 and 197. So yeah, basically cloned, except for army composition, which is obviously has no battlecruisers. 12 o'clock base being harassed by a group of Wraiths. Some Goliaths moving into position to try and force them away, as well as with some Valkyrie Wraith support as well. And here we go. Could we finally see an engagement here? Yes, we will. We will see the Wraiths engaging the Valkyries and the Wraiths for Mind. And it looks like Light's going to come out well ahead because the battlecruisers aren't in play. The battlecruisers aren't in play at all. So Light comes out so far ahead in that battle. The entire Air Force for Mind has fallen outside of the battlecruisers, and because they were not supporting all of the Wraiths and the Valkyries, they could not get there in time, and that is exactly what I was talking about earlier. If those battlecruisers were not able to because of their speed being slower, if they're not able to get into play at the same time, then you could really see a battle swinging the opposite way. I was more afraid that the battlecruisers would get picked off without their Valkyrie and Wraith support. Looks like it went the other way. The Valkyries and Wraiths got picked off without the battlecruiser support. But either way, the point still stands, and now half of his Air Force is basically destroyed for Mind, and he's going to have to rebuild it up. Of course he can, he has all that money. Of course he can rebuild it up. Of course it'll probably be mostly battlecruisers this time, and he does have those science vessels, so he can at least stop the cloaking here. And it does look like his battlecruisers are going to try and come back here to the south to try and stop these rampaging Wraiths, and here they come. Whoa. Nope, nothing really. And the announcers are going crazy, but here come the cloaked Wraiths. They are going to go for the battlecruisers. It looks like no. Are they going to try and pick up the battlecruisers? There are some Goliaths in protection point as well. And are they going to go? That's a decision that he has to make. And is he Where's the scan? Need a scan! Need a scan! Need a scan, Mind! Need a scan! Scan, Mind! Mind! How do you have no scan? Oh, man. Terrible for Mind. That he had a great opportunity there to get a volley off. He needs to scan, needs to EMP. What is he doing? He's just running away here. Looks like maybe he's afraid that there's so many wraiths that if he does stop and fight, he's just going to lose everything. But definitely he just lost a couple of Valkyries there and didn't do any damage. With them, they just were basically given away for free. But I guess he thought the engagement point was so poor that he didn't want to risk it. Was willing to lose a couple of Valkyries because he thought he could lose a whole lot more. And a couple of Valkyries. The Valkyries for Mind still looking to get a huge volley off. It does look like there's still like 6 or 7 of them, so they will still do a ton of damage. And probably take out whole blocks of wraiths very, very quickly if they can get a big old volley off. They do need that +3 weapons, so they're only... And here we have the rest of the battle cruisers showing up at the north for Mind. The Valkyries for Light are also being brought into play. They're kind of hanging out in the middle of the map, but going back and forth a little bit. The Valkyries for Mind kind of separated a little bit from the BCs. That's got to be something he's got to watch out for. Wants to keep those groups of units, both parts of his aerial fleet, together. He doesn't want them to be separated, otherwise the neither one will be nearly as effective. And it looks like Light just has starports all over the place building wraiths. None of them really concentrated. Of course, he has like 7 or 8 in the bottom right, and then he's got like a couple here and a couple there. And a couple of Valkyries actually getting picked off with because the scan was a little bit late. They do get a counter volley off and do pick off a couple. And the battle cruisers have rejoined their friends, the Valkyries, and Light just attacking in and out with these wraiths, pouncing in, pouncing out. And just taking advantage of the speed of the wraiths, much greater than the speed of the battle cruiser. So unless Mind can establish I don't know what to call it, a fighting zone and force the wraiths to stay in a relatively small area, this could end up being bad for Mind if he has to keep moving his battle cruisers back and forth. If he can try and gain a little bit of initiative, maybe put a little push on at the top right, force those wraiths to come in, or something like that, that could end up helping him out. The wraiths coming in here again, darting in, picking off a bunch of missile turrets, picking at some of the tank count, and keeping those a little bit low. And actually, a ton of the what is he doing? A ton of those Valkyries, all of the Valkyries getting picked off as they just basically run by the wraiths. So Mind a little bit very sloppy there, and losing all of those Valkyries. So that is going to hurt him a lot. We're looking at the gas counts. A lot of the gas mines are going to be depleted at this point, so the gas counts can't be replenished as much. Neither player will be hurting really for minerals, but the gas count, in terms of rebuilding your aerial fleet, you can only do this so many times. Valkyrie is very expensive at 225 gas a pop. So it looks like he lost maybe 6 or 8, somewhere in that range there. So that's going to eat into his gas count to rebuild those, and that's going to make it more difficult for him to rebuild battle cruisers if he needs to. Something to watch out for as this goes on is whether or not Mind will be able to rebuild at a big rate. Because once the two forces do engage, there will be a point. I would be very shocked if there wasn't, in fact, because it's hard to imagine a way for this game to end without it. There will be a point where these two aerial forces clash. Most everything will die, or at least a lot of it will die. And actually, here comes a little small clash, and the Valkyrie's getting a couple volleys off and doing a decent bit of damage to the wraiths. But once they cancel each other out, a lot of it dies. One player will come out ahead, but the other will have to re-macro as quickly as possible. And if you don't have enough gas to build your, in Mind's case, to build his 8 battle cruisers or whatever he wants out of his starports, he's going to be really far behind. And yeah, at 300 gas a pop for the battle cruisers, those are very, very, very expensive, whereas the rates are only 100 gas. And if microed properly, they can actually end up becoming more effective than battle cruisers if used well, and especially once they start getting up in numbers. It looks like, what is this, 4 control groups of wraiths, something like that, for Light. 1, 2, 3, yeah, it looks like about 4. Looks like Light is moving his wraiths again to the top, or at least some of them. Actually, it looks like he's splitting up his force, half of them to the top, half of them to the bottom. And where are the battle cruisers and Valkyries? It looks like they are at the top, and it looks like finally he's going to kind of force an engagement here. Maybe. Yes, we are. We're going to have some Yamato action started. The battle cruisers coming in here with some Yamato, and hopefully we'll get a little chain Yamato here, take out a bunch of these tanks, maybe even Yamato some Goliaths, basically whatever you can. He's got to be careful though, because he doesn't want the wraiths to be able to dart in here too easily and pick off a battle cruiser, so he's being a little bit cautious. Both players trying to keep Goliaths as well near their aerial forces to provide just that little extra bit of anti-air firewood. And actually, for the Goliaths, if you can get a bunch of them, they actually end up doing a ton of damage. As most people know, is their anti-air attack is very, very powerful. A couple more Yamatos going off, taking out more of these siege tanks. And neither player with their aerial forces willing to engage yet. We'll see when the fleets do engage. We have a ton of missile turrets coming up for light, and I assume for mind as well at various spots. Tons and tons of missile turrets. Another Yamato, and here comes another Yamato. Yamato. Very, very nice. That's exactly what Mind needs to do. He needs to force the battle. He needs to force Light to keep these Wraiths in one area. And here comes the Valkyries darting in here, getting a big volley off on a bunch of those Wraiths. Not really picking too many off, though. So, maybe he needs more of them, or because this isn't quite effective enough for him. And Light doing a pretty decent job of keeping his Wraiths from clumping up too much. And you can tell how he's not really doing the thing where you try and like trap an SCV in an area and like clump up your Wraiths as much as possible. And actually, Light coming in here for a big attack, coming in here with a bunch of Wraiths from different angles. Look at this angles that he's coming in from, and the Valkyries are so ineffective when they come in from so many angles. That huge arc that Light was able to get, and that absolutely destroyed the air force of Mind. So Light getting a huge win there in the aerial battle here, and he could actually go on the offensive perhaps and maybe try and take some more map here. He did lose a bunch of Wraiths as well. We'll see if he replaces those with more Wraiths or if he actually starts the conversion to his own battlecruisers. And I'm also interested to see how many battlecruisers and Valkyries can Mind really replace. He's lost a lot of Valkyries and battlecruisers in this game, and for him to continuously replace them, I really doubt that he has the gas for it. But we will see if he's got enough for at least one more round here. If he can get at least one more round, he can still stay in it, maybe try and get a big win in an aerial battle, and see where he goes from there. Bunch of tanks coming in here for Light. They're going to take out some of these the turrets, and now here come the Wraiths in support. They're just going to come here and pick out the turrets. I thought they might actually dart through and try and pick off the battlecruiser, but he is very, very content to just sit here and pick off all of the turrets. And now the battlecruiser turning around, look like they're ready to do some battle, but that is not going to end well for them, I don't believe, unless there's Goliaths. There are some Goliaths and some Valkyries coming into play as well. So actually, that turns out Mind almost goading Light to come in here with his Wraiths. He is going to lose all his battlecruisers, Mind is, but he did manage to pick off a ton of Wraiths with those couple Valkyries coming in reinforcement, as well as those Goliaths coming from the south. So he does manage to pick off a lot of Wraiths for those 3 battlecruisers, as well as whatever Goliaths he lost there. And it looks like Light continuing to produce Wraiths, although he's building up a few more control towers, so this will end up becoming battlecruisers, I believe. There's no point to them unless you are. So this should be conversion into battlecruisers along with those Wraiths. And that could actually end up being the death blow. Valkyries do basically nothing to battlecruisers. They're just like little wasp stings, if anything, mosquito bites. They don't even care, really. You could have like 12 Valkyries and battlecruisers would maybe then start to be like, oh, well, I guess I should at least pay attention. They don't really care. They don't really do too much, so that could actually end up being the deciding factor. This is the battlecruiser switch from Light. He does still have a lot of Wraiths on the field, though. I do still want to see what Mind does with the rest of his forces. He has these Valkyries. Is he going to have enough gas for battlecruisers? That is what I want to see. If he does, and he isn't forced to like go to Goliaths, which is just painful, he will be in decent shape. And the Valkyrie's getting a big volley off here, a couple big volleys off, and picking off a lot of the Wraiths. Not all of them, but picking off another dozen, 10. I don't know, something like that. It's hard to tell just how many are going down. There's so many of them dying. And Light freeing up some Psi here, and that's not a good sign for Mind to see that Light is actually freeing up more Psi. That means that he's not only going to have more military, but he's got the money that he's able to build more military and doesn't need to save those SCVs for anything, even to like take hits or something. Should the game get on very, very towards the end. I think we'll see Mind probably save some of his SCVs towards the very, very end if he needs them, and to be cannon fodder as he pushes out with his forces. I think that's what he's going to be doing at the end of his SCVs. We did see the battlecruiser tech switch from Light. We saw several of them being produced at the bottom right. And a whole lot of tanks here, actually, and Goliaths and Valkyries and more Goliaths. So we are seeing a Goliath switch from Mind. That must, to me, that indicates that he just does not have the gas after losing all those Valkyries so many times over. Just does not have the gas in order to reproduce battlecruisers, and I think that is going to actually end up being the death blow for him. I just don't think that his Goliaths are going to be able to deal with the battlecruisers. It is possible. It is not out of the question that they could, but it is very, very difficult for Goliaths to beat battle cruisers without basically a lot of tank support and a lot of help. They will go down to any sizable tank group that Light has. So you do see that at the top that he does have a big group of tanks. And here we have the first-person view of Mind, and you can see that he's got no minerals and virtually no gas either. So he's got basically nothing. Actually, it looks like shockingly enough, he has more gas than he does minerals. But he is out basically, so not going to be able to produce much of anything else. And now we've got Light's first-person view. It does look like he has some thousands of minerals and gas left. So this will I mean, just looking at the first-person views here, I gotta say that this game should end up in Light's favor. It's possible for Light to win this, but it's possible for Mind to win this, but Light really should. He's got such an economic advantage right now that as long as he doesn't throw away too many units, he should be fine. And Mind coming here for a little attack with these tanks, but they are not going to be able to do too much because here come the raids. But the Valkyries coming in as well for a couple volleys and going to do a little bit of damage here. Tanks continuing to push here at the top right. Looks like Mind's ready. It looks like he's fed up with the whole dancing game here, and he wants to go on the offensive. And what is Light going to do? He is not going to defend. He is going to go on the offensive himself and is going to go for the bottom left trio of bases of Mind. So it looks like both players are just going to sack each other's bases, and we'll see whether one of them or neither of them decides to actually even bother defending, and which one of them is able to defend. And remember that all of Mind's unit producing buildings are in the bottom left. Light doesn't know that Mind is completely out of money, and that it basically means nothing if he loses his unit producing buildings because he has nothing left to produce for Mind. So he's just going to sack these buildings at the bottom left and the top right. They're both should all go down here. It doesn't look like either player even thinking about defending. And then at some point we're going to have to see the armies. The armies actually clash. The micro, establishing a solid position. Oh no, a couple battle cruisers actually were produced for Mind, and they get picked off by Wraiths here, and they all go down, so that is terrible for him. Mind is just looking like he's in very, very bad shape here. Very, very bad shape. I don't know how he's going to deal with those battle cruisers. I don't know how he's going to deal with those Wraiths either. I mean, he's got Valkyries, but we've seen so far that his Valkyries just have not really been able to deal with the Wraiths effectively enough. And Wraiths coming in here again, they look like they're going to try to pick off a couple more battle cruisers, and they're not going to be able to do so this time. So Mind able to keep a couple of them alive, but it's just not going to be enough. And these battle cruisers that were built at the bottom left getting Yamato'd, so terrible timing for Mind for that to occur. And so Light just going to complete the rampage of the sacking of Mind's base, and Mind going to do the same to Lights in the top right. And now we've got bottom right versus top left now. So now we're going to wait for the next engagement. And how will this game end up being determined? I just don't see Mind with enough stuff. He's just got so few units. He's got so few, especially the powerful units. He's got so few battle cruisers. And I just can't see him being able to take care of Light's forces, but he'll have a chance here, and a couple more Yamatos going off, picking off a couple of the Goliaths, so that way his battle cruisers can just come in here and take out the tanks with ease. So that is something for him, and some Valkyries as well, looking to maybe pick off some Wraiths that would come in in defense to try and save these tanks, but there's nothing coming in defense of them. Light's just going to unsiege them and bring them south where his battle cruisers can defend, and he's got a ton of battle cruisers. And like I said, Valkyries do basically nothing to battle cruisers. They just don't. So Mind is going to have to use his Goliaths. He's going to have to use the two battle cruisers he has. I think will get picked off extremely quickly. With just a Yamato each, they'll both be almost dead. So he's going to have to use his Goliaths very, very effectively. And here's hoping he's able to at least do some damage and maybe make this an entertaining finale to this rather epic 43-minute now game. Wow, this is 43 minutes long. So we'll see how it ends. We should be nearing the completion. There isn't much left for either player to do other than to have the final fight. And Mind is going to retreat here. Looks like he's retreating deep into his part of the map, what little he has left to him. And he's actually going to engage here and take out these siege tanks. And I think this is going to be the final engagement, perhaps. Perhaps where are the battle cruisers? There they are. Now we're going to start seeing Yamato from Light's side, and backing off here. Will he get the chain Yamato, the big line of Yamatos. And how will Mind actually choose to try and engage here? This is going to be really interesting to see how Mind actually decides to engage. Yamato's going off on all kinds of tanks, and Light now just walking in here, not even Yamatoing, not even trying, just A-walking at this point. He's literally A-walking, and with absolutely no concern here. You can see he's not even really targeting things at all, just A-walking, and it all is dying. So Light is going to take game 1 in this best of 3 series on La Mancha, and the other games have actually just been played, I guess last night, and so I will try and cast them as soon as I can. I should have finals completed very shortly, and I will be able to finish casting this series as well as the rest, and just waiting for GG really. The battlecruisers have all gone down except for one that has a red HP and is almost dead, and is he going to GG before that battlecruiser dies? Maybe he'll say, oh, I have a battle. Nope, there it goes, it dies. So now there's no military left for Mind except for one Goliath. There it goes. Is that it? Come on, Mind. Let's see the GG. GG! So Light takes game 1. Mind is done. So we're gonna go on after that. We're gonna go on to, I guess, I'll do Zero versus Hero next, the first game, and then I'll do Flash really last. But that was pretty fun. Hope you guys enjoyed the very, very long TVT, but very, very exciting and very, very fun, like getting the first win in that series. I will see you guys all in the next set. It's a ZVZ, so it should be shorter.